Morning. I would like to call to order the Board of Directors meeting. Southwell County Industrial Development Agency. The meeting at the Vernonia Technology Incubator, 214 Central Avenue, Brunswick, New York. Also streaming live by YouTube and Zoom, September 26th at 10:04 in the morning. Start with a call to order. Gary Henry is here. Brad Walters.
Here.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader. Here. Kevin Muldowney. Here. Stephen Thorpe. Here. Dan DeMar. Here. Thank you.
Gary, excuse me, we just have two people to enter in the waiting room. Could you let us know who you are at number ending in 8359?
Lisa Cole from Phillips Lytle.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello. Welcome.
Lisa.
Hello.
We also have somebody joining us with initials RM. Could you let us know who you are?
Chairs those, but I recommend, I'll just run through them and have Candy omnibus resolution authorized.
Sorry, could you repeat that one more time? We had a difficulty hearing you. Sorry, could you repeat that one more time? We had difficulty hearing you. RM. Thank you, Gary.
The board members should have already received the minutes of the August 22nd meeting, had a chance to review those. We have a motion for those minutes. Thank you, Sagan. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved. Before we start into any of the listed new business, Art, you wanted to have an introduction?
Yeah, so we're really excited to announce, you may have read it in the newspaper, we hired Jason Sample as our new communications and marketing coordinator. Jason's here. I'll ask him to say a couple of words in a minute, but I just wanted to sort of give an introduction for him. He'll be splitting his time between marketing for IDA and CREDC. And he'll also spend time working with Justin in the county executive's office, working on countywide marketing efforts as well. He joins us from, he worked at as a general manager at WRFA in Jamestown. He was responsible for management and programming. And it was licensed at the Rensselaer Center for the Arts. He also served as the station's public affairs director from 2011 to 2021. He covered a lot of issues that were countywide issues, so he knows a lot of the people and the players. He served as editor at the Talk of Star newspaper, as a countywide publication, showcasing the people and businesses of the county. He also worked as a news reporter and sports anchor for more than 7 years on WJTN radio in Jamestown. In the past, he served as trustee with the Chautauqua County Historical Society, Westfield, and was chair of the organization's program committee. He was also a board member of Infinity Visual and Performing Arts in Jamestown, 2010 to 2018, serving as board president and marketing committee chair. He's been a week and 2 days, I guess 7 days he's been in the seat. He's already got his head wrapped around things, writing press releases. I can't tell you how excited I am. We are to have you on board. Do you want to say anything?
No, I'm just happy to be here and happy to share the good news with the county, with residents in the area, as well as across the region. So I'm looking forward to putting my best foot forward and helping out both with the IDA and the partnership, hopefully for many months and years to come. Looking forward to the next slide.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. I would also like to thank the county executive, joining us this morning. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead and move into new business, and we'll start with new business A. We've received a letter of resignation from Rhonda Johnson from the board. That's something we need to vote on or just acknowledge?
No, just acknowledge, she regretfully resigned her position and said how much she enjoyed serving on the board and really proud of the work that we do and that she had done when she was with us. So important in this county. So, sorry to see her leave, but we now have a vacancy.
Let's move into new business B, for NAP company presented by Carol.
Thank you, Commissioner. On September 14th, the loan review committee met, recommended CCIDA funding to complete a stock purchase of Weber NAP Company. The application was from Rhonda Johnson, President, and William Michelle, CFO. They're going to purchase. They will each have 47.5%. The project is exciting because it will maintain local ownership. In 2011, it was purchased by Rex McCoy and Don Anders. And it became a local ownership at that point. It was owned by a foreign company. So, of course, they want to continue this. The Weber NAP company has been doing great. Their net income, consolidated statements rise each year. Their cash flow is good. Projections. Company will go on as is. They are a premier designer and manufacturer of motion control and hardware products and accessories, mainly for luxury appliances, outdoor appliances, which their outdoor appliances and barbecue grills are going. Yes. They industrial, medical, all types of designs. They lease an office, an easy office. One that's 11 employees, and they mainly manufacture keyboard designs and mechanics and ship from there. They maintain 110 employees right now at Weber NAP, so this is also for retention of employees and a guarantee that it's going to stay in county. The structure, Evans Bank and Aragus County Bank has asked the IDA to project. Ours is the IDA EDA funding for $1 million. Evans Bank, their project of $7 million. The current owners are going to put in $9,100,000, and that current ownership that you're not only Rex is going to 5%. That's where the other 5% of the stock ownership. Don Gangborn did not want to continue with any stock purchase, but the two of them are putting in that. Cash equity is $1,285,000, and Cattaraugus County Bank is $400,000. So the resolution consists of a third lien mortgage position, collateral, and the real estate behind Cat County. And they have 3 facilities, 2 on Chandler Street, 1 on Allen Street. And it involved all 3 real estate holdings. Third lien position on assignments for to be between and Evans Bank. A subordinate lien position behind the lending institutions and all the business assets, including equipment, machinery, furniture, fixtures, there's an unlimited personal guarantee from Rhonda Johnson. And there's assignment of key man life insurance. And they have requested a special request that each of them have a life insurance assignment of $250,000 apiece. That's less than, of course, the amount of the loan, but it's very expensive. And actually, CCB Bank asked us if we could split the 1 million. So, that would be the collateral. And there any more questions? Or any questions at all? The project looks solid. You know, the total project cost is 21,488,000. Creating 104 jobs. We do have 14 temporaries. And right now they have open positions. So they will be hiring, and they expect about 12 more positions in the next 5 years. Structure looks good. And, if there's any more questions.
Okay.
Oh,
Hearing no questions, Brad, would you move new business B1 for us?
Resolution 09-262301 authorizing EDA/AL Tech allowing any funds for Weber Napco.
We have a second? Kevin? Do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Ann Hudson Rader.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Dan DeMar.
Aye.
It is unanimously approved. I'm excited about this. Whenever we can keep long-term business like this, locally owned, it's good for the county. I've seen too often where private equity comes in and snatches up one of these businesses, and the long-term viability of the business isn't always so good, and it's difficult for the county to involve. So this is exciting for our county. We'll go ahead and take a look at the next item. It's also listed as B, but it's going to be Catalyze Energy presented by Rosie.
Mr. Chairman, back in May of this year, the board passed final approving resolutions for SL Sherman and SL Sherman 2, which is a 9.625 megawatt AC solar farm located in the town and village of Sherman. The reason these resolutions are being represented to the board is there's been a change in ownership, as well as a change in project costs and a change in incentives being provided to the project. Solar Liberty sold SL Sherman to Catalyze Holdings LLC. The project cost changed from 13.7 million. No change in property tax abatement. Those incentives are staying the same. However, they're no longer taking reporting tax, and sales tax increased slightly on both SL Sherman and SL Sherman 2. SL Sherman 1 increased by 90,000. Less than 100,000 requiring us for the public hearing. And then SL Sherman 2 increased by 65,500. Again, less than 100,000, so no longer needing to move forward with another public hearing. Other than that, everything else changed. Still a 25-year pilot. Jobs have stayed the same. Town is still in favor. We're looking to close this project soon. And I will let Millen explain the resolution being presented to the board. But is there any questions? For instance, SL Sherman and SL Sherman 2.
Rosie did a good job of explaining it. As is common with these solar deals, just before they close, the developer that's put everything together often comes in and sells some, most, or all of the ownership interest. And the board has previously approved that to be approved administratively instead of coming back to the board for each time, as long as the actual applicant is the same. So that would have been the case here, except that when they went back to look at the numbers, the project costs have risen dramatically. On the one hand, that's good because your fee rising dramatically, but they've also asked for smaller increases in both the sales tax for both deals. Since they are under $100,000, as Rosie said, we don't need a new public hearing. But since the board approved a specific amount of sales tax when it did back in May, we need to come back to the board and ask for the increase. But as Rosie said, everything else is the same project, same everything. Secret doesn't change because the project itself is not changing. So this is just an administrative action for that, which is approving the additional sales tax on both.
Megan, would you move New business B for Catalyze Energy.
Resolution 09-6-23-02, SL Sherman LLC. Approving resolution and resolution 09-26-03, SL Sherman 2 LLC. Approving.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Okay. Do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Ann Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Thorpe.
Aye.
And DeMar. Aye. Is unanimously approved. We'll go ahead and move into new business C, professional service agreement with CRC companies presented by Nate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a pretty straightforward one. As you may recall, last month, board authorized us to enter into an agreement for project management and environmental services with Brian Hahn of Orion Environmental Services and CNS companies out of Buffalo respectively. After that was approved, within a few days, we were notified that Brian Hahn, Orion, is now employed by TRC Group, winding down his own company. So there's really no change in terms of the terms for services for that agreement. Working with Millen, we're just recognizing that the entity we're contracting with is TRC.
Thank you. Did we have any questions?
Yeah, but the overall cost is exactly the same. No new money being.
Dan Hetzenrader, would you move new business C1 for us?
Sure. Resolution 09-26-23-04, authorizing entry into professional service agreement, RC Companies Incorporated, in connection with the CCIDA Brownfield Revolving Fund.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Steve, do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. And DeMar. Thank you. It is unanimously approved. Next, we'll move into new business D, review of policies and resolutions. I'm currently working on my third cup of coffee. We've gone through these policies many a time, so I don't want to drift off. You know, Bob is a thrilling speaker and we're glad to have him here. At some point, it's kind of the same thing over and over. So, but I know for some of you, you haven't had the opportunity to hear about all these policies. You have received them, you've had a chance to review them individually, but Bob's just going to explain them, so make sure we fully understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I think this is sixth time I've and before then, Mark and Rich, great that we review these policies, new ones and amended ones several times on our own. Also, very thorough job. I don't know if I have the exact report back that everybody has. There are certain policies that the audit finance committee approved. There are certain policies that the governance committee approved. We're going to do all of those today. I guess I'll just take it from the audit finance committee. Sorry. Okay. So the policies that the audit finance committee recommended for approval at the meeting prior to this meeting, these are all new policies. Most things have come out of in response to the authority budget office, and some are new for other reasons. I'll explain as I go through these. I think what I'd like to do, and I don't want something the chairman does, is I'll go through all of the new policies. There's probably close to 20 of them, one at a time. Interrupt me if you want. And then we have a written resolution where we can, in one motion, all of them without visually stating. So I'm sorry, very much. Okay, the first policy, the first new item before the board, and these are all three entities will be approving all of these. We're not going to have separate policies for entities, so they're joint policies. First one is audit finance committee charter. This agency already had an audit, functioning audit committee. The statute suggests that there be a finance committee as well, and for the purpose of reviewing debt, rather than creating a standalone finance committee. Because this entity is not a big borrower of funds for its own purposes, we created an audit and finance committee So before you, you have a very template form of audit and finance committee charter with the agency compliance with the public authority law. Next policy is the new policy, board member compensation reimbursement and attendance policy, statutorily required, so change anything, still not paid for your valuable time. But it is a required policy, and now you have a very standard required policy. The next policy is a credit card policy. This is the substantive policy. Recall the BDO audit a lot of time identifying what is developed and appropriate of the credit card. Even during the audit, Rich and Mark already began changes. We put these procedures in writing. We spent a fair amount of time custody and control, uses, how to confirm the uses of the credit cards. We think this really doesn't change how the credit cards are used, but part of the criticism was you didn't have policy. So you have a policy. This should allow business as usual with respect to the use of the cards for business and corporate purposes. An additional item is Schedule A in this policy, which this would change from time to time, but this is identifying all of the current card holders in the credit card, which at a minimum or approval year to year. Next policy is the investment deposit policy. This is a new policy required by law, but this you were doing everything that the law required anyway with respect to positive funds for all three entities. This puts in writing exactly what many years your funds. Next policy is an accounting policy. This is not statutorily required, but it was a PBO audit where the ABO didn't like what it saw for whatever reason. The first point would be you don't have a policy for it. Then if you had a policy, they would say, well, the board didn't. Rich has spent some time working with the accountants to put in writing the policies that Rich has been doing for years with respect to for all three entities. So now we have it written down. Rich worked very closely with the accounting. Rich worked closely with the accounting folks in developing this policy. Next policy is the fiscal internal controls policy. Again, this is reacting to the ABO audit, not statutorily required. But this policy puts in writing how this agency handles cash and checks with respect to deposits, withdrawals, anything in a chain of custody. Not really any different than what was being done in past practice, but it's now a normal policy. I think that is all of the policies that the audit and finance committee reviewed for this meeting is recommending for approval. And then just so folks know, every year, once a year, or if you need to do it for a certain cap, but every year you're supposed to re-adopt or amend and adopt all the policies. And it's not uncommon to have some changes in the policies. We review other agencies that get audited. We try to learn about IDA to review your audit and are changing things as well. So IDA to learn from other audits. We've already budgeted on this frequently puts out best practices. Those are policies approved by the Audit and Finance Committee. The Governance Committee met earlier today as well and recommending several new and amended policies. I'll rattle through those as well. There's a brand new governance committee charter. We have a governance committee. The functions of the governance committee are now formalized in the charter as required by the ABO. And really what probably one of its main functions will be policy design, basically one of them. But so the board's going to be asked today to approve governance. Next new policy is an anti-nepotism policy. This has nothing to do with the APO audit or the general municipal law or any other government statute, the IDA, but it is required for some of the grant funding that the agency is relying on. Nate work with the grant for drafting this policy. The defense and indemnification policy is again, formalizing protection you already have, but this is confirming that the board, that the agency is going to hold powers and indemnify all members. Purposes of officer, or sorry. Next new policy is the diversity policy. This is a policy required for grant purposes, not really the audit. Grant course, the craft policy required. Next policy is a project recapture and termination policy. It's the new policy. This actually is a substantive policy. And if you go on other IDA webpages, this one is pretty general and general and broad. Other agents, other IDAs really get into the weeds on coming up with policy to recapture, terminate, or modify agency. Whenever the agency, if you approve financial assistance, sales tax, mortgage tax, or real property tax benefit, there's some things that are by law you absolutely have to recover if it's determined that the applicant used the sales tax benefit for a different project or exceeded the amounts authorized or let somebody else use it. Or if you have requirements in your case by case on any of your project approvals that you're requiring certain terms, like job creation, you need to monitor that. If you don't, the ABO will not put a bad failing grade. If you do have terms and conditions that need to be monitored, you need to have a policy by law that says, hey, how do you handle the thresholds aren't met? So we have the policy here, very, very general. We didn't do a deep dive in any specifics. We also talks about how the due process, right? When you allege that some real attorney do that applicant or the board to consider, it's not reflexive. It doesn't automatically mean capture. You do have some discretion as well. And just be mindful of on all your approvals. If you do introduce terms, you have a policy that will enforce you and enforcement. Next policy is your real property acquisition policy, statutorily required. This is a new policy for the board, but it's really formalizing what it's always done. Probably the most substantive thing on here is just confirming the policy when the agency is thinking of acquiring a leasehold or purchasing real property. Real practice, what do you do? Well, we consider getting appraisal, environmental review, title review, things like that. What's that policy? Very policy. The next policy is this was not coming out of the ABO audit, but it's a remote meeting policy. So just part of the items in the ABO audit, though, it was these are all public meetings. They're supposed to be made available to the public. Public's allowed to come in here. Their May meetings are also supposed to be made available to the public. Anybody can come in the room and watch business being conducted. There are some exceptions, being if you have to have a quorum in the room to make business decisions or part of the business at hand. There always was an exception to being remote, but it's not that user friendly. But it does allow someone, a board member, to participate elsewhere and vote and have that vote count. But you had to put in public notice where that person was during or was going to be during the meeting. The public, in theory, could go drive to that location and watch that person live while that person on the phone talking. Was threatening that person or whatever, but that one is not really. I've only used that twice in 20 years. That one just is that user friendly, but as a result of COVID and Zoom meetings, the state passed the amendment to the open meetings law, which does allow a person to participate remotely and have that person's vote count based on a disability or some other reason, or a child or a sick parent or carry someone else. we tried to make this really friendly by, that is your set of facts, you can't come, we put a little, form that is submitted to this, you know, you can send this in advance. Mark's not going to go out of your house, make sure you're safe, but take the temperature. This will formalize in the record and say why you weren't here, and then you can remote. But you still need to have a quorum in the room. Not everybody needs that. You do need to have a physical quorum and you can participate remote. The next policy is the sexual harassment prevention policy. This did not come out of the ABO audit. This is required under New York labor law, and every employer is supposed to have sexual harassment policy. This follows the state's template. I just had a really close review, a good thing because it was just updated, I think, in July or August. So this applies to policies in general. The next policy is the supervision performance evaluation policy. That is not the audit. This is one of the this third policy that's required for certain grant awards or policy. The last policy I believe, the last new policy, project evaluation policy. This is statutorily required. The board is supposed to develop guidelines for evaluating projects for financial assistance. It is elaborate or as you want. This one is about as simple as it gets. It's bare bones required with the law. Other agencies on their web pages, some agencies get really detailed about the types of projects, so where the geography, what projects favorably, a brownfield project. And so this one is very, very broad. Benefits the board because this has been your past practice to be pretty broad, and it also helps the applicant maybe this is the type of project supported by needs. So those are all the new policies. There are several revised policies. The first one, and this one is probably your most important one, your code of ethics and conflicts of interest policy. This was a no audit. You've updated your policy. But one is the one that you don't want to read your name in the paper. That's all I can say. Just follow this policy here. We'll tell you, it's not up to Dylan or Mark to confirm if you have a conflict. You kind of know, right? But it can be an appearance of a conflict. It can be an actual conflict, conflicts, financial conflict, or you would know. You really do need to be proactive on these things. So this policy should be shared with all new members, and every year you should probably slow down and read. You have that feeling. Mark's going to be one of the actions for designated as the ethics officer. Contact Mark. Have the first discussion with Mark. If you can dispense with it, then great. A lot of times council is brought in to help analyze the situation. And then you just deal with it. Maybe it's not a big deal. Don't even need to mention. Maybe it's determined there is the appearance of a conflict. You might want to disclose it in writing. We'll put it in the minutes just so no one hits you at the door on the way out, but you're still going to be able to vote. Or maybe it's the conflict where you're going to disclose it and you're not going to vote. You're going to recuse. And when you recuse, that was a theme, and you really recuse yourself. Do not talk about it, pro or con. That probably needs to be so you're not. So pay attention to this one and certainly talk to Mark or council if there's anything that you think is a potential issue. This was an easy one to follow and so on. Self in a position. We're all volunteer. Next policy is your freedom of information law policy. This didn't come out of the ABO audit, like required by law to have a FOIL policy. So we've just implemented all the FOIL steps here. We've designated within this policy that Mark will be, or sorry, the CFO, Rich will be the initial point of contact, FOIL officer, to provide materials. I mean, there's a presumption that everything is public, every document, email, piece of paper. Look, your text messages, private Gmail account, you think you're okay, you're not. So just be aware of that. But there's also pretty strong exceptions to disclosure, and mainly the ones for this agency, with financial information, credit information, personal information. It's items that could harm business. So there's pretty good authority for redacting or rejecting requests. And so whenever the request comes in, Rich should share that with council. If this happens easy, no big deal. Council to review it. If it doesn't like the response, a person has statutory right to appeal. Appeals officer was the CEO. Set that up. The CEO is the appeals officer. We assume Rich would do exactly what the voted the oil officer did, and then the person has exhausted his statutory remedies judicial. Next revised policy is the procurement policy. This is just been updated. Mark and Rich have taken a close look to make sure there's something with here formalizing updating the agency's procedures for procuring goods and services. Next revised policy is your real property disposition policy. So this was part of your ABO audit as well, particularly with respect to your leasing of space to the county and maybe another entity as well. But this just formalizes the statutory requirements with respect to disposing of property, which does include leasing property. The statute requires you always obtain an appraisal. Now you've got to have a benchmark for yes or no, are you going to sell? And then you dispose of property for less than fair market value. It's a very bureaucratic procedural statute. You got about the property. So we'll be visiting this again probably in a month or two with respect to some of the leaseholds that the agency has with some of the county folks. There's another not-for-profit as well, right?
Yeah, watershed line.
Yeah. So we'll formalize and we'll come into compliance with leases under this policy, which follows the law.
We have 5 days.
We'll do a license that will convert to a lease after 90 days. You don't have to. All right, next policy is travel, conference, meals, and entertainment policy. This also, the themes in here, you'll read about them in your audit. A couple things with that audit is if you didn't have a policy, that was bad. If we had a policy, but there wasn't evidence support approval, it's also bad. So we've done a couple things here where we try to expand the policy, your travel, conference, meals, and entertainment policy to hit on the themes. That doesn't mean you can't come out mean that person. Just there needs to be a policy. How do you prove it? How do you get yourself reimbursed? And then at the end of the day, just was that a line in the budget somewhere? So this policy has been updated to hopefully put in paper your past practices with respect to travel, conferences, meals, and entertainment. It can be tinkered with if it's proves if it needs to be, but the hope here is this covers all of the discretionary expenditures that the agency had done in the past and things that they continue to do. Then the last policy we just revised was your statutorily required whistleblower policy. This wasn't part of the ABO audit, making sure the policy. So that's your list of new and revised policies. You should be in good shape for until your next annual meeting when you probably should review using it and or pass. Thank you.
The board have any questions? Hearing none. Evan, can you move new business D1 for us?
Resolution 09-26-23-05. Approving policies, charters, and appointment of certain officer positions.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
A second.
Or roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenrader.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Dan DeMar.
Aye.
So these policies are approved by the board. I'd like to thank everybody that was involved, certainly all the board members, everybody on all the committees. Mark and Rich, Bob, I mean, just hours and hours went into getting the policy right, making sure we were matching what the law said, what the ABO recommended. And so I think it shows when we read the policies, if they make sense, they work for us. Did you have an executive directive report for it?
Yeah, I'll be real quick, Mr. Chairman. Couple of things I wanted to talk about. One was the Partnership for Economic Growth is being recognized as receiving the Economic Development Award by the Chamber this year. And we're really thrilled. A lot of hard work that was put into that by me and Monica and Crystal and Christy and Rich and Kayla and our entire team. So that's October 5th at 6 p.m. at the Williams Center at SUNY Fredonia. The other award that we need to call out here is Greg Peterson is getting the Person of the Year award. So all of you that are rooting you on, Greg, and our entire partnership team will be there as well. So anybody that hasn't been notified, I think I reached out to everybody and asked them if they wanted, or Crystal did. Yeah, and asked if anybody wanted to attend. If you want to attend, and let her know, let us know. Okay. Pretty exciting. We took some tours in the last couple of weeks. Cummins Engine, Nestle Free, Crunch Roll, and that was part of the field to manufacturing tour. County executive was on that. A number of other legislators and others, other stakeholders. I had about 30, 40 people, I want to say. We had 2 buses. We went from Miracle Farms in Sheridan, where they grow a lot of things, but they grow, it's a hot pepper, Hungarian pepper. And that ends up in, then we went to Crunch Roll in Westfield. And by the way, we helped out Crunch Roll. We provided incentives to them and loans, and we really helped them throughout the years. They're doing pretty well. They use that pepper in one of their Crunch Rolls. And then we had samples there, by the way, which was nice. And then we went to Steelbaum Brewery up here in Dunkirk at the Clarion, and they use those same peppers in some of their Asian cuisine. So then we had a nice sampling there as well. So that was pretty cool to see it go from the field to into a manufacturing process and also into the restaurant. So very nice. And I know there's a YouTube video that's been put together. And the county executive narrating that. So maybe we can get that out to all the board members. So that was cool. And Lauren Sharp put all that together, and she's in our planning department, and she really did a great job, super organized, and others helped out. So that was cool. And then the other thing, 2 other things. Best New York, we had so we applied for $5.25 million grant for site for infrastructure, and Nate and others worked really hard to put together that application. We were invited to an interview. We had that interview with the Empire State Development staff on Friday. And others were involved. We had our entire team. We had about on the interview, we had a nice presentation. I thought it went really well. So crossing my fingers that we get approved for that funding. That's part of a $200 million that was put into our budget into the state budget this year for this new program. There was already a first round, and we're in the second round. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is our website. You know, that the ABO flagged our website. Part of it was our website is very old. It's hard to, it's not user friendly. It's not set up right. So we had even recognized the ABO audit. So we've been working with a Clever Method and Block Club, and we've had a couple of couple of meetings now where we're really mapping out how can it both be sort of user friendly and something that people want to go on, but also have the nuts and bolts of what the ABO requires for all our posting of information, so that public transparency. So we're working hard on that. It's probably going to take a couple more months, 2-3 more months. It's really a lot of work, but we're getting there with that. So that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Rich, do you have a treasury report for us?
I do. So in front of you, you will find two documents, the balance sheet, the revenue and expense, and the variance report. We'll start with the balance sheet. Again, last month, the balance sheet was really good. Cash wise, in a great position. With that $1 million loan, which used our cash loan funds. And Calcott Street's not on there, the liability or the asset, so that's gone. We will turn next to the statement of revenue and expense. Everyone's doing well there. The CARES Act. We're breaking down, there's an interest on that one, and had that right off, salary expense there. The new loans on the CARES Act are at 4% though, so eventually those loans get replaced with 4%. I think everything looks good there. Turning to the variance reports, actually. Bring out a few of the highlights here. Our application and administrative fees going 212,000 below budget. September was a good month. Hope to close some more of these solar farms and some other projects. Would be fine. Right on target or even a little better. One of the things down below, professional fees is timing, utilities is timing. Most of that utility expense is behind us now that we're on Calcott Street. We can't still get the straight bill here or there that we're passing on the whole day. So we are no longer involved. I think we're in for another good year. All I have here, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you. At this point, I would entertain a motion going to executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers, as well as some CCIDA personnel. I believe that discussing this in open session would substantially affect the value. Do I hear such a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Dan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We'll now go into executive session.